Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going to dive deep into agriculture, specifically how one company is using technology to protect those delicious cucurbit plants.
That's right. We're talking cucumbers, melons, and squash, all those yummy summer staples.
Sign me up. So who is this company and what's the threat?
It's Farmonaut, and they're using satellite imagery and AI to help farmers, especially those growing cucurbits, fight plant viruses. They're all about sustainability, which is really cool.
Okay, sustainability is awesome, but what kind of virus are we battling here?
One of the big ones is Cucurbit yellow stunting disorder virus, or CYSDV. It's a real problem for yields. The plants get yellow leaves, stunted growth, and end up with smaller fruits. Not ideal.
Yeah, nobody wants a tiny watermelon. How does this virus spread? Through the soil.
Actually, it's spread by these little insects called whiteflies. They feed on an infected plant, pick up the virus, and then spread it to other healthy plants as they move around.
So the whiteflies are like little flying disease carriers. Sounds like a nightmare for farmers. What can they do to stop these whiteflies and the virus?
Well, there are basically two approaches: organic and chemical treatments. Both have their pros and cons, and a lot of times the best approach is a combination of both.
I'm really interested in the organic side. What are some of the methods used?
There are some really cool natural solutions out there. Some farmers release predatory insects like ladybugs and lacewings to eat the whiteflies. Neem oil, which comes from the neem tree, is a natural insecticide.
That's really cool. I've heard of neem oil being used for other things too. What else?
Another thing some farmers use is reflective mulches. They actually disorient the whiteflies so they can't find the plants as easily.
Wow, it's like an optical illusion for bugs. These organic methods sound great, but are they as effective as using chemicals?
That's the thing. Organic methods are great for the environment, they're safer for beneficial insects, and they don't leave any harmful residues on the food we eat. But they can be slower acting and need to be applied more often.
So there's a trade-off then.
Exactly. And that's why integrated pest management, or IPM, is so important. It's a holistic approach that combines prevention, monitoring, and targeted interventions. It recognizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and the best approach depends on the situation.
IPM sounds like a really strategic way to deal with pests. But how do farmers figure out which strategies to use? Is it all based on experience?
Experience is important, but technology is becoming a crucial tool, and that's where Farmonaut really comes in.
Okay, let's talk tech. How does Farmonaut help farmers combat this virus?
Well, they use satellites to monitor cucurbit crops from above. These aren't your typical satellite pictures, though. They use advanced spectral analysis and infrared imaging to see how healthy the plants are. This means they can spot tiny changes in the plants, things like disease or stress, even before we can see them with our eyes.
Wait, hold on. So these satellites can actually diagnose plant diseases from space. That sounds pretty futuristic.
It's incredible technology, but that's just the first step. The real magic happens with Farmonaut's AI system, Jeevan AI.
What exactly does this Jeevan AI do? Tell me more.
It basically acts like a virtual plant doctor. Jeevan AI takes all the satellite data and analyzes it with these super smart algorithms. It can even spot the patterns that show CYSDV even when it's just starting, like having a 247 early warning system for the farmer.
So it's like a heads up before things get really bad. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop there. Jeevan AI gives personalized advice to the farmers based on what's happening in their fields. Things like changing the irrigation, applying neem oil, or even suggesting when to introduce those beneficial insects we talked about earlier.
So it's like having a personalized farming advisor, but powered by AI. That's incredible.
Exactly. And the best part, it's constantly learning. The more data it gets from different farms, the better it gets at identifying those patterns and giving advice.
So it's not just a one-time thing. It actually gets smarter over time.
Precisely. And that adaptability is going to be key in the future, especially with climate change and the new challenges that brings to agriculture.
I'm really impressed with how sophisticated this technology is. But I'm curious, how do we actually measure its impact? Does it actually help farmers in the real world?
It absolutely does. Let's look at a case study. Imagine a melon farm that's been struggling with CYSDV outbreaks. They've been relying heavily on chemical insecticides, but that has its downsides, right?
Right, we talked about how those chemicals can be harmful to beneficial insects and even pollute the environment. Not to mention, the whiteflies might even become resistant to them.
Exactly. So this farm was caught in a cycle of reactive measures that weren't working. They needed a new approach, and that's where Farmonaut came in.
I'm eager to hear what happened. So how did things change when they started using Farmonaut's technology?
Well, first, they installed the satellite monitoring system. This gave them a whole new view of their farm. Literally, it wasn't just about walking through the fields and looking at the plants. Now they had this detailed analysis from above showing subtle changes that they wouldn't have seen otherwise.
It's like having X-ray vision for your crops. What did they see with this new perspective?
One thing they noticed was that some areas of the field were more prone to whitefly infestations, maybe because of the wind patterns or slight changes in the environment.
Ah, so they could pinpoint the hotspots before an outbreak even happened.
Exactly. And with that knowledge, they could focus their efforts on those high-risk areas.
Okay, that makes sense. So what did they do in those hotspots?
For example, they strategically placed yellow sticky traps, which whiteflies love, to monitor and control the population.
So it's like setting a trap for the bad guys before they can do any damage.
Hmm.
Did they use any other strategies?
Yes. They also used some traditional IPM methods that worked well with Farmonaut's recommendations, like planting marigolds around the edges of the melon fields.
Marigolds. I didn't know they had anything to do with pest control.
They're great for repelling whiteflies and other pests. A natural barrier, you know?
Yeah.
It's a great example of combining old wisdom with new tech.
I love that. So did they see any results from all of this?
Oh, absolutely. They saw a 30% drop in CYSDV compared to the previous year, which meant they could harvest way more melons.
Wow, that's a huge improvement. So healthier plants, higher yields, and I'm guessing they were able to use fewer chemicals too, right?
They got it. They cut their pesticide use by 20%. That's great for the environment, and it means safer food for everyone.
That's what I call a win-win-win. I'm honestly blown away by how Farmonaut is combining technology and IPM to fight plant disease.
It's a powerful example of how technology can give farmers more control and help them grow healthier crops while protecting the environment. And you know what? This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more on the horizon.
Okay, now you've got me hooked.
Mhm.
What else is in store for the future of farming?
Well, imagine cucurbits that are naturally resistant to CYSDV thanks to gene editing. Or imagine biopesticides that are super specific, targeting only the bad bugs and leaving the good ones alone.
Those sound amazing.
And we can't forget about drones, which can monitor entire fields, collect tons of data, and even apply treatments with pinpoint accuracy. The future of farming is all about combining the best of technology and nature to create a more sustainable and abundant food system.
I'm getting really excited about the future of farming after hearing all of this. But in this world of high-tech solutions, what about the role of the consumer? What can we do to support a more sustainable food system?
That's a fantastic question. We as consumers have a lot of power. Choosing locally grown produce, supporting farmers markets, even being mindful of food waste, those are all ways we can make a difference.
So it's about being conscious of our choices and supporting businesses that align with our values.
Exactly. We're all part of this food system, and our choices have a ripple effect.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. It's amazing to see how technology and traditional knowledge are coming together to tackle these challenges in agriculture. Before we wrap up, what's one thing you'd like our listeners to think about?
Well, for me, the biggest takeaway is this. The future of farming isn't about picking sides. It's about finding ways to integrate technology and traditional methods to create a system that's both innovative and sustainable.
I love that. And I think it's important to remember that technology is just a tool. It's up to us to use it wisely and responsibly to create a food system that benefits both people and the planet.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of cucurbit virus control and the future of agriculture. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. It's been a great conversation. The future of cucurbit farming is looking really bright with some incredible innovations coming up. One of the most exciting things is gene editing, which could create cucurbit varieties that are naturally resistant to CYSDV.
Gene editing. That sounds almost too good to be true. Tell me more.
It's pretty amazing. By modifying the plant's DNA, scientists can essentially give it built-in protection against the virus.
So farmers wouldn't have to worry as much about CYSDV anymore.
Exactly. It could drastically reduce the need for pesticides and other interventions, making cucurbit farming a lot more sustainable and profitable.
That's incredible. But I know there are concerns about the risks of gene editing. That's a pretty controversial topic, right?
You're right. It's a complex issue, and we definitely need to be cautious and make sure it's developed responsibly. But the potential benefits are huge, especially as we face climate change and a growing population.
I see what you mean. It's a delicate balance. So what other innovations are on the horizon?
Well, besides gene editing, another exciting area is the development of biopesticides. These are natural pesticides that come from sources like bacteria, fungi, or even viruses.
So we're fighting nature with nature.
In a way, yes, but these biopesticides are very specific. They target only certain pests, like whiteflies, and don't harm other insects or the environment.
That sounds like a much better approach than those broad-spectrum insecticides.
Absolutely. And as we learn more about these pests, we can create even more targeted biopesticides, which will hopefully mean we won't need to use as many chemicals in the future.
I'm loving all of this. What about other technologies, like those we use in everyday life? Are those playing a role in the future of cucurbit farming?
Oh, absolutely. One that's already being used is drones. Imagine these drones with high-tech sensors flying over the fields, collecting data, and even applying treatments with incredible precision.
So like robot farmers in the sky. Is that really happening now?
It is. It's still early days, but some farmers are already using drones to water their crops, apply fertilizers, even release beneficial insects.
Wow, that's impressive. It seems like technology is changing farming in so many ways. What about artificial intelligence? Is that being used too?
AI and machine learning are already making a big impact, especially in companies like Farmonaut. Remember how Jivan AI analyzes all that satellite data? Well, imagine AI systems that can take data from drones, weather stations, and even sensors in the soil. They can analyze all that information in real time to predict pest outbreaks, optimize watering schedules, and make recommendations for each individual plant.
So it's like having a super smart computer system helping farmers make the best decisions for their crops.
Exactly. And as these systems get even smarter, they could completely revolutionize how we grow food, making it even more efficient, sustainable, and resilient.
This is an incredibly exciting vision of the future. It seems like there are so many possibilities. But with all this technology, where do humans fit into the picture? Are robots going to replace farmers?
That's a great question. And it's important to remember that technology is meant to help farmers, not replace them. A farmer's experience, intuition, and connection with the land are irreplaceable. Technology is just a tool to enhance what humans already do best.
So it's a partnership between human knowledge and technology.
Exactly. As we move forward, we need to embrace new technologies while respecting the environment and the generations of farming knowledge that got us here. It's about finding that balance.
I love that perspective. This conversation has really opened my eyes to how exciting and innovative agriculture is becoming. But in this high-tech future of farming, what role do we, the consumers, play? How can we contribute to a more sustainable food system?
It really comes down to awareness. Choosing locally grown produce, supporting farmers markets, and being mindful of food waste, it all makes a difference.
It's about making conscious choices and supporting businesses that are trying to do things the right way.
Absolutely. Every single choice we make as consumers sends a message.
We really do have more power than we realize, don't we? Are there other ways we can advocate for a more sustainable food system beyond our everyday choices?
Definitely. You can get involved with organizations that are promoting sustainable agriculture. Or you can reach out to your elected officials and let them know you support policies that encourage eco-friendly farming practices. Even something as simple as volunteering at a local community garden can make a real difference.
It's about realizing that we're all part of this, the whole food system, and that even small actions can have a big impact. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. Before we go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners? Anything that might inspire them to take action?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay hopeful. Yes, there are big challenges facing agriculture, but there are also so many incredible people working on solutions. Farmers, researchers, entrepreneurs, even everyday people like us. We're all coming together to create a better food system. It's a journey, and it takes all of us working together, being creative, and being open to new ideas.
It's a collective effort, and that's really inspiring. It gives me hope for the future.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of cucurbit virus control and the future of sustainable agriculture. It's been fascinating.
It's been my pleasure. It's been a great conversation. I hope we've sparked some interest in our listeners and encouraged them to learn more about the amazing world of food and farming. Absolutely. And until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and remember, every bite we take is a chance to create a more sustainable and delicious future.